Starship Troopers by Robert A. Heinlein, 1959. Thank you for joining me for WH40K, where I look at classic science fiction novels that have influenced the background and history of the Warhammer 40,000 universe. As much a work of political philosophy and social criticism as a masterwork of science fiction writing, this originally serialised story is told entirely from the perspective of its main character, Juan Rico, known to his friends as Johnny, a young man who embarks on a career of federal service in a futuristic interstellar civilization when he joins a power-armoured mobile infantry. In this video we will start by exploring the key narrative elements and themes of the novel, before outlining background comparisons from the lore of the 41st millennium. The winner of the 1960 Hugo Science Fiction Writing Award, Starship Troopers proposed entirely new concepts of how futuristic, space-borne warfare might be conducted in a truly visionary perspective. Heinlein drew on his own military experience to give a highly realistic and somewhat personal viewpoint on life as a frontline soldier and an individual's journey from civilian to combat-hardened veteran. The other main theme of the novel was the philosophical observations on the nature of military service and a proposed model of society and governance. This latter element has created a controversial legacy for the book, which remains as divisive today as it did half a century ago. The Terran Federation is a unified human society that grew out of the ashes of the 20th century nation-states and expanded into an interstellar power, colonization which has led to encounters with various alien beings with similar aspirations. Interspecies relations are not always peaceful, and conflicts exist between humans and various other civilizations, most notably the Skinnies and the incomprehensible hive mind that controls the swarming arachnids. The Federation sees such conflicts as an exercise of a classic principle of the continuation of diplomacy through the application of military force. Once enough of the latter has been deployed, the former will be in a position to negotiate a settlement to the dispute. Rico is a young man living in the future city of Buenos Aires in South America, on Earth, or as it is more commonly referred to, Terra, the administrative centre of a Terran Federation. His family is very wealthy, and a life of privilege and material comfort awaits, and his parents expect him to follow in his father's footsteps, joining the family business upon graduation from high school. However, one thing he never expects to do is vote in an election, as universal suffrage does not exist, and the right to vote or become a citizen and participate in the franchise has to be earned through the completion of a 2-year term of federal service. Influences outside of the home change the young man's path, and the desire to follow his peers into federal service lead to a change of heart. His worldview is also shaped by his teacher of history and moral philosophy, Mr. Dubois, who frequently challenges Rico under his instruction. Against the strong wishes of his family, he volunteers and is accepted into the mobile infantry, commonly referred to as the MI. Training for this outfit is initially brutal, with many volunteers quitting, being forced out due to injury, or even being killed in the many dangerous exercises. Discipline is harsh and uncompromising, with violations of the 31 regulations of the MI likely to result in the guilty individual being subjected to the euphemistically titled administrative punishment, also known as flogging. This corporal penalty is not seen as being cruel for the sake of inflicting pain, but as a valuable lesson to the recruit so they might learn from their mistake and not transgress again. Training is not just physically demanding, but intellectually challenging as well, with hypnosuggestion methods being used to keep the recruits on the steep learning curve required to complete basic. However, the MI fosters a strong sense of camaraderie with the motto of "We never leave our own behind," and those who meet the challenges see a change in their instructors as they approach the end of their training. Despite its hard nature and demanding standards, the MI is entirely meritocratic, with every member going through the same training and working their way up through the chain of command. No system of officer commissioning exists, and every soldier has served in all parts of the command structure, junior to their current position. Less than 10% of initial recruits will pass the basic training and be posted to active units, but this price is seen as being necessary, for the MI are no normal soldiers. As the elite infantry of the Terran Federation, they are equipped with suits of vacuum-sealed powered armour, and drop onto their targets from orbit in ablative pods, a demanding form of combat requiring fitness, teamwork and technical aptitude. They are always the first ground forces to make planetfall, either as hit-and-run raiders or assault infantry seizing control of landing zones and defending while heavier units are deployed. The MI favour small corvettes and recovery shuttles for operations, as this allows them to approach a planet stealthily and escape quickly. Only when engaging in the largest of attacks will they be deployed from cruisers and battleships, these vessels also providing devastating orbital strikes in support of their ground-based comrades. This high-intensity mode of interplanetary combat requires similarly cutting-edge equipment to allow the MI trooper to fight and move in the hostile, enemy-rich environments they venture into. Their powered armour suits are heavily armed, massing a ton when fully loaded, and are controlled subconsciously via an internal negative feedback system of pressure receptors. Primary mobility is achieved through the inclusion of high-performance jump packs that allow the Marauder suits to fly hundreds of metres at a time, and each trooper will hold an area of several square miles in a typical combat zone. Command suits have extended jump performance that allows them to cover distances even more rapidly, and also have sophisticated communication links that allow the officer to coordinate the activities of their unit, while remaining in contact with all levels of operational command. Suit firepower is mixed and varied, with everything from hand and heavy flamers to missile launchers firing micro-nuke warheads being carried, along with a variety of hand-thrown bombs and explosives. Other weapons such as NBC agents and the disorientating tanglefoot grenades supplement the arsenal for specialist applications. Despite all their heavy armour and massive firepower, the MI infantryman relies mainly on mobility. The ability to quickly evaluate aliens as threatening or not is essential, and warriors have to be dispatched immediately, as all have weapons that can easily kill a human, even one wearing powered armour. Extended operations for the MI are also possible, with extra suit power packs being issued and hypnosuggestion techniques allowing officers to rest their troops in groups, instantly inducing sleep and awakening using code words. All these abilities and more were tested to the limit when skirmish disputes with the Arachnids escalated into full-scale war after the destruction of Buenos Aires on Terra, leading to the ill-fated all-out attack on Clandathu and the numerous raids such as Operation Royalty to try capture a Hive Queen on Planet P. The reason that civilians volunteer for such dangerous service as the MI is to become a fully fledged member of society and enter the franchise. That is to gain the right to vote in matters of government. In the Terran Federation there is no universal suffrage, and only those who have completed a 2-year term of service are entitled to vote. No civilian can express political opinion in an election or run for an office of state. It is this betrayal of a might is right society where crime is punished through public corporal punishment, alongside criticisms of Western democracies, that led to several observers suggesting that the author was advocating a quasi-fascist system of government. Heinlein later defended his novel, stating that the Swiss Federal Republic served as his model, but this element of the story remains controversial, possibly due to its focus on military life. Opinions remain split, with the book remaining popular to this day. For example, it is still on the cadet reading list at the United States Military Academy, or West Point, for its examination of the responsibilities of military service and the necessary characteristics of leadership, both in times of peace and war. The universe of the 41st millennium is strongly influenced by Starship Troopers in a very particular and well-known area. Heinlein's concept of the power-armoured, space-borne elite soldier formed the genesis of the Dark Millennium's most iconic and enduring meme, Space Marines. The Space Marines of the Adeptus Astartes are the power-armoured super soldiers of the Imperium of Man, the product of unbelievably tough and demanding training regimens. Typically operating in small strike teams, these warriors function as first strike shock troopers to project the will of the Emperor against the enemies of humanity, often one of the many alien, or Xenos, species that have come into conflict with the Empire. They have their own fleets of warships and use these to rapidly and independently move to combat zones across the galaxy. On arrival, the Marines will use a variety of tactics to defeat their enemies, but their signature combat maneuver is known as Steel Rain, where a force is deployed via orbitally launched drop pods directly into the heart of the enemy. Heavily armed interface gunships, such as a Thunderhawk, are also employed to transport combat teams to their targets and retrieve the Battle Brothers upon completion of their missions. Each Marine wears a suit of sophisticated power armour that is linked directly to their nervous system, allowing instantaneous subconscious control, as if it were part of their own body. When additional mobility is required, high-performance jump pack can be donned, allowing assault warriors to make powered leaps across the battlefield, effortlessly bypassing obstacles and rapidly closing on their hapless opponents to deliver swift, close-range destruction. The arsenals of chapters are filled with potent, futuristic weapons encompassing everything from handheld flamers and portable missile launchers, all the way up to void ship-mounted lance batteries that can strike both space-borne and planetary targets. It is not just the finest training and armaments that make an Astartes an unparalleled warrior. Perhaps their greatest asset is their surgically enhanced bodies. 19 organs are surgically implanted, enhancing every aspect of their combat prowess, as well as granting them abilities beyond that of a normal human. For example, the Phase 6 catalespian node allows a Marine to rest part of their brain while remaining awake during extended operations. This semi-sleep cannot replace full REM, but does allow resting at times when this would not otherwise be possible. Amongst the enemies of the Space Marines is a Tyrannid swarm, a vast fleet organism of innumerable species, all serving a Norn queen in a hive-like structure. Of the many threats the Imperium faces, this is perhaps the most grave, as it is utterly hostile to all other life, a foe that tests even the Astartes to their limits. What is less clear is if the future society of the Imperium of Man is influenced by Heinlein's concept of the Terran Federation. There are superficial similarities such as the shared use of the Latin name for planet Earth and the interstellar expanse of both civilizations. What is less distinct and open to question is if the militaristic society of Starship Troopers served as a template for the warlike nature of the Empire. Certainly, both are highly militarized, displaying elements of fascist ideology, with the individual being completely subservient to the state that has an expansionist interstellar outlook. However, the Imperium is a highly complex civilization, and while it demonstrates a feudal structure at a galactic scale, individual systems show an eclectic mix of governance, including medieval fiefdoms, autocratic hive worlds, and even liberal democracies. All are permissible as long as the imperial cult is followed and the planetary tithes paid. The parallel is also clouded by the nature of relations with alien species between the two. On the one hand, the Terran Federation maintains peaceful relations and coexists with other alien civilizations in the galaxy, and will only engage in armed conflict where diplomacy fails. On the other, the Imperium has a default hostile outlook towards all non-human species and fosters strong anti-alien sentiments in its citizenry. This disdain is further amplified in the standing armies of the Imperial Guard by the commissars who foster a hatred in all things alien. It is, however, the Battle Brothers of the Adeptus Astartes who are the true personification of this attitude, bringing fanatical religious zeal and fervour to the cultural xenophobia of the Imperium. Starship Troopers presents an interesting case in studying influences that shape the lore of Warhammer 40,000. While comparisons for many strong themes of the novel are fraught with inconsistencies and contradictions, there is one element that is indisputably present: the elite spacefaring warrior of the future, who ventures into the unknown and dangerous void, encased in powered armour and armed to project human power across the stars. Every fan of Warhammer 40,000 should read this classic of science fiction writing. Thank you very much for listening, and goodbye.